Hey everyone, I want to welcome you to another episode of the New Hollywood Podcast. Today we're in for a treat. We have Ulyses Osana, who's my publicist. He's an amazing all-around guy. He's 21 years old, and he has a ton of accomplishments to his name. He does publicity and PR for everybody from Ed Milet, Ryan Stewman, and Jared Adams, who are all amazing clients. Between all of his clients, there are multiple ones that are worth over $100 million. Ulyses is only 21 years old. Didn't go to college, learned the PR game himself, and since then he employs 9 people full-time, and he has the largest entourage of anyone that's came onto this show. There's about like 8 of them here right now.
Dude, you're like the second person that has said that before. Like last time we went on Good Morning La La Land, and they said that like we have the best-looking entourage and all that type of stuff. And yeah, I like to bring my team. They're like family.
Yeah, you're a regular Vinny Chase.
Yeah, thank you.
So Yuli, where does your story start? Because I think that's like the best place for people to really get an understanding of who someone is and what attracted you towards being in PR.
Yeah. So I found out about like online marketing through an ad. So kind of like the general like Ty Lopez ad where, you know, they basically show you like the dream, the fancy car, the beautiful wife, like all the money and all that type of stuff. And I was 17 at the time. So when you see stuff like that, like it kind of just like it makes you super interested into the industry. Right, like into the entrepreneur industry, because coming from like a small town, you really don't see that type of stuff. Like I didn't see none of that stuff. All I knew about was college, working with my dad, going to the fields, and all that type of stuff. Right, that was just my life. That's all I knew. So when I found out about online marketing, I made a decision like that day. I was like, you know what, like there is a better way, and I'm gonna make a better life for me, for my family, for my friends, and everybody that I can actually provide for.
Okay. So, were you still in school at that point?
Yeah, I was in high school. It was like the beginning of my senior year. So it was like around the summer, like right when I graduated, or not graduated, but ended junior year. So I was in the summer. It was in the summer. And because it was in the summer, I had a lot of time to just learn. So I kind of just dove into like online marketing. And when you do research in online marketing, you're bound to find this guy named Neil Patel. Neil Patel dominates the search engines. Like you will find him if you search up online marketing or anything of that sort. So at the time, I don't know how many years ago this was, but
about 3 years ago now.
Yeah, like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So you know, not a lot of people were doing this stuff of like personal branding at the time. There was a lot of agencies. So when I would read blog content, it'd be like Kissmetrics or like just, you know, agencies and shit. But when I was looking into like Neil Patel stuff, I always saw his face there. I always saw like, damn, like this guy really knows what he's doing, you know? And I saw his bio and he's been awarded by the president and all that type of stuff. And I just like, man, one day I want to become the Neil Patel of like my industry, right? And that's when I chose like PR, and I got into PR by accident. But after I chose it, I was like, this is the industry that I want to be in. It aligns with everything that I want to do. My thing is like being like the one kind of, so being in that spotlight. And the reason PR works for me is because I help my clients achieve that. And if I help my clients achieve that, I can also achieve that for like myself. So.
Okay, how did you stumble into it by accident?
So I was doing just like general like online marketing stuff. So like capturing, you know, making websites, capturing emails, doing email sequences, all that type of stuff, right? But I noticed like it didn't make me much money. It didn't make me money at all, actually. I spent 2 years of my life making nothing. And then I got a call from this guy that was like doing Instagram at the time. And I was a writer for these publications already because I was doing online marketing stuff. So he told me, he was like, you know, if you do stuff in the PR space, you can actually make money from it, and big money. Like this is something that is very unsaturated that many people want. Like if you take a look at it, the only reason I'm able to work with like Bedros, Ed Milet, and like Ben Lee and all these type you know, big name entrepreneurs is because other people haven't worked with them yet. Like yeah, they've worked with agencies and stuff like that, but there's not a one person that has helped them with PR. So it was very unsaturated. So I wanted to make sure I got to every big influencer possible. But I stumbled on it by accident because the guy basically told me I can make money off of it. I told him, I was like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. So the next day, I actually charged somebody for it. I made my first $2,000. And then that week, I made $16,000. So I was like, yep, this is exactly what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So that's kind of how I stumbled upon it. And then I just kind of left the online industry, or like online marketing in general.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You're the personal approach of public relations.
Yes.
So one-on-one, it's a real personal, interpersonal dynamic. How did you go about like getting your first set of clients? Because I know that's one of the areas that a lot of people in business get really bogged down. They love exactly what they do, but sales comes really hard to them.
Yeah.
How did you go about like overcoming that barrier?
So I knew like if I wanted to, so I never agreed with like my dad or anybody that was like that had that old fashioned thinking where like shortcuts are bad. To me, shortcuts are great as long as you know what you're doing and as long as you fit the criteria, right? Like you're not just trying to take shortcuts just to take shortcuts. But I never believed in like climbing the corporate ladder or going small just to go, and then building your way up to go big. My thing is like if you can start from the top, then start from the top. There's no reason why you shouldn't, do that, right? Like, yeah, you'll learn experience, but you'll also learn experience by working with the best, So the first time I got my first client was I went to a big influencer. His name's Farak. And I asked him, I was like, hey, dude, like we'll charge you, we won't charge you premium, but this is like, we'll charge you very low. We'll do the exact same thing for you. All we need is like your recommendation and more clients from you. So from that, I made thousands of dollars just because I didn't charge him a premium at first. And I got that big name. And once you get one big name, it's super easy to leverage that to get another big name, to get another big name. And then all of a sudden, it's just a snowball effect. So.
And Mr. Goodlife is a good dude to know.
Yep, Mr. Goodlife is.
He's a good guy. So you got that sales process kind of down. How did you getting a hold of these major publications? Because all these people are extremely successful that you work with.
Yeah.
Gerard Adams owned Elite Daily. Ed Milet is on stages with everybody from Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone.
Yep.
How do you position yourself as like someone that's a really young guy that's just in there to cut his teeth, that you're going to be the one to get them with these major publications?
So because it was a little easier for me because I was already a writer for these publications. So in the beginning, I did it all wrong. Like I was, there's like 3 rules when it comes to PR. You can't barter with a contributor, you can't pay anybody, and you can't even give them gifts. So at the time when I was doing it, I didn't go to school for any of this, so I was doing all 3. Right, I was like breaking every single rule to the point where people would tell me that the FCC are like looking into me, and a CNBC reporter was like looking into me, and she actually approached me and told me midway during the conversation that she wanted to be real with me and said that she's doing a story on me, like a bad story on me, and so I can be an example to the world to never do this type of stuff again. So I was making very loud noise like in the beginning, but that's because I feel like it was very unsaturated, and I gave that personal touch. And I always over-delivered in the beginning. So I knew like if I was never in the business just to make quick money and leave, right? Like when I was getting investigated and all that type of stuff, when that happened, I could have easily just like shut it down, did something completely different. But in reality, like I was very naive to what was happening. So I was like, no, like if I'm going to fix this and I'm going to make it better. And I feel like because people see that persistence and people see that like I actually believe in myself that I'm going to become like an Ed Milet, but at a younger time, then they want to work with people like that, right? They want to work with people that they feel will go out and about for them, and that's what I strive to achieve.
So they love you for your ambition.
Yeah, hopefully.
I think that's what's really cool about you, because I remember the first time that I met you, you were just very ambitious and you're ready to just put your mouth where and your actions where your mouth was.
Yeah.
Which is rare. A lot of people want to talk a big game, but then they're not able to deliver. But the thing I've always heard about you is that you're very quick at getting things done. You just kind of bang it out. You figure out an exact action plan.
Yeah.
And then you move very quickly.
Yes.
With getting that whole team kind of put together, how did you go about assembling the superstar team here?
It was the hardest thing ever. I sucked at building a team. Like my thing was, because I was so ambitious, I just want to do it all myself. But I didn't, until I hired a coach, until I invested $10,000 into a coach, I didn't realize like the team is what's actually going to help everybody grow. Not just me, but every single person on the team is going to grow if we have like a solid foundation. So I've learned a lot through that coach, and praise to like Sterling Griffin for helping me through that. So there's like 3 things that I kind of like look at. It's do, delegate, delete. What do I need to do myself? What can I delegate to somebody else? And what doesn't even matter that I can just delete it, right? Because a lot of times, like as entrepreneurs, we focus on things that don't matter. The things that really matter in business are cash flow and client fulfillment, right? That's like the biggest, like that's really all you need. You need a way to make money, and you need a way to service your clients, and just rinse and repeat. So when I write my to-do list of what I need to do, I figure out what do I actually need to do, what can I delegate to somebody else, and then like what doesn't even need to be there, right? And then that just helps me solve a ton of problems. And what I recently started doing is everybody on the team now takes full control of like their aspect. So Sammy, who's helping us with the PR stuff, I'm giving him full control to where like he provides his own resources. If he finds that a client is asking the same thing multiple times, different clients, then we create a resource for it. Like I ask him like, okay, how would you make this 10 times better? Right? So they're not only just fulfilling client needs, but they're like, okay, well, now that I fulfill this, how can I make this better? I saw that he asked this question. How can I solve that question before it even gets asked? So like I'm giving them complete control of their own aspect. Like with the sales team, I told them, I was like, okay, if you guys need people to help you out, like I will hire the VAs. I just need to know exactly what it is that you need me to hire somebody else for, right? So if they can take control of that aspect, because I'm not in the front lines. Like I'm in the back. Like I don't know everything that happens, but they know what's going on. So if they see the roadblocks, they can easily present those to me, and I can just use the funds to fix that, right? And then we make more money from that. So it was very hard in the beginning, but like thank God that I learned this very early on, because now we're doing a lot better.
I think that's a key mistake that a lot of young entrepreneurs fail to grasp. Is if a sales guy is saying that a sales script isn't working,
yeah,
and you're just like, no, this is the best sales script in the world. I wrote it. Okay. It doesn't work. Ultimately you have to get their buy-in. And I think that's a really amazing thing that you're able to do, because your team is all very young. They're all around like the same age as you. Right. A lot of them are your friends.
Yeah.
And you're putting everybody up to that challenge that they need to identify A, what they're good at, B, how they can excel at it. And then really, how do they really make this a sustainable thing?
Yep.
Because nobody's working a full-time job. They're not doing this as a side hustle. This is their full-time thing. I see you guys doing posts and responding to people on nights, weekends, all hours of the day. And Nathan, I think, is a great example of it. Nathan's the one who like educated me about the podcast space initially.
Yeah. And
then when I asked him how he got into it, he's like, yeah, well, one day Ulyses just said, hey, if you want to work with me, get me on some podcasts.
Yeah.
He's like, how do I do it? And you're like, well, that's for you to figure out. And now Nathan is a master of getting tons of people on some of the biggest podcasts around the country.
Yep.
So were you kind of put in that situation that you had to just figure out how to reach out to other writers in like the traditional PR space?
Yeah.
And you're just passing on your own like version of that test?
Yeah. Because once you send out so many emails and you realize what works and what doesn't, then you just know how to talk to people, right? Like, and the same thing applies with like sales. You never want to be pushy. You never want to do a long paragraph. You never want to do it like, just like, if you were in their eyes, like how would you respond to the same thing that you're going with? So the way I sell and the way I kind of like do anything really is like question based. So before I pitch a client, I ask them if it's even okay if I can, pitch them a client. That way I get that opening for them to say yes, and then their guard is down, and then I can go ahead and pitch. Like if before I sell you on something, I'm gonna be like, is it okay if I let you know what I'm gonna about to tell you? Like, is it okay if I tell you more about my services? Once they say yes, they let their guard down, right? Like, so it's just being like very aware of like the situation. So, because if we were doing, like when I first started out, if we were just doing the wrong thing every single day, we would have never been able to adapt. So I told them even before this trip, I was like, look, this is what we have planned, but things never go as planned. So just be aware of that. Like, and once you're aware of that, you have control. Because if you're not aware of that, then you feel like you lose control. So in the morning, we were supposed to meet with at least 4 influencers. None of them showed up. So like things happened, right? But because I knew things happened, then it's okay. Like, right? Then we just try again. Then we try to have them come here to the studio, or we meet them later. So I think a lot of it is awareness. And Nathan now has that awareness, but he didn't before. He didn't understand, and he was very pushy. But neediness is like creepiness, right? When you feel like you need something, you very rarely do get it. So.
Yeah, it's like the person that's overly persistent or overly reaching out. Like, I hate when people try and sell me things that I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
And it'll drive me crazy if, like, someone just messaged me like, hey, you need to work with me. I'm an amazing client. And I'm like, I don't need another client right now. I just need to focus on the clients that I have.
Yeah.
So I think it's really smart that you're aware of respecting people's times, but it's also realizing that sometimes you're not going to do things the right way. So I know you mentioned like the bad PR thing. People are coming after you. You're making a big noise in a big way.
Yeah.
How did you go about rectifying your position in that marketplace? Because a lot of people, when that sort of stuff happens, they get out of Dodge. They swap it out, exactly what you said.
Yeah.
So how did you go about like handling your own reputation management? Because it's very different. Like, I'm an amazing manager, but handling stuff for myself or even like my own publicity is harder for me. So how did you go about like figuring it out, or did you seek other experts to help you out?
By the way, you're 110% right, dude. Doing your own publicity is harder. It's a lot easier for like clients and stuff like that. So what I did is I did look for expert help. Like I was like, dude, I'm in this predicament. I have no idea. Like I did not know what I was doing was wrong. How do I solve this, right? Because my thing was like, I can't, like, if I just stay put, I'm gonna get wrecked, right? Because the editors at the like major publications were looking me up, like actually asking my clients about me. They deleted me from every single publication that I ever wrote for. So I got my ass handed to me, and I got a slap on the wrist, really, because it could have been a lot worse. But I publicly apologized, and I proved to everybody that those days were over. So before I publicly apologized, I waited about 3 to 4 months, and I did PR right. I had to learn it the right way, build new connections, because I lost a ton of connections. Nobody wanted to be affiliated with me because they knew what was going on. So it was very hard to get anybody published at that time, right? I lost a really good friend too. He doesn't want to be associated with me just for the fact that it might come back up. So to me, I'm like, wow, like it was a genuine mistake, right? Like I was a kid, but it happens. So
you learn by error. It's the lessons that you learn that really define who you are as a person.
Yeah, and I'm really glad it happened early on. So that way it didn't happen like now, because now there would have been no slap on the wrist, right? They would have been like, you knew better, and then here's what's gonna happen. But I publicly apologized, and I proved to everybody with screenshots that we were doing PR correct. And I was like, before I ever wanted to apologize to the public, I've been doing this right for this many months, and I can show you, like, I'm doing this correctly now. I never want to be put in that position again. I didn't try to be put in that position. I accept all blame and all that type of stuff. And some people didn't believe me. A lot of people supported me. But at the end of the day, like, after that, we just kind of did it the right way. And then so far, thank God, nothing has happened after that.
No, that's really amazing. Now, as someone that's in PR, a lot of people view PR as an auxiliary service. It's not necessarily something that you need.
Right.
And even like, especially when we first met, one of the things I told you is my business is always ran off of word of mouth. You know, I'm a coach, I do events, and then I consult for different people. And it's really, people know who I am.
Yep.
And then you're like, dude, how the hell do people not know who you are at a larger scale because of the clients that you're working with?
Still to this day, I tell you that.
I know. And how do you like really position that? Like, how do you make that happen? Because even for somebody like myself, I always get overwhelmed with like that own process of doing it. Like, how do you break it down to a level that people will go out of their way of doing something that might not benefit them today? Because this is really a vitamin.
Yeah.
It's not a painkiller. A painkiller is something that solves the problem right now.
It's not
This is a long-term solution. How do you go about setting the right habits, and how do people go about doing PR the right way? Because I see tons of people, and this is what tripped me out is it took me a long time before I even felt I was worthy or even needed any PR.
Yeah.
Because I need to have metrics of success. Mm-hmm. And then I look online now, and half the articles I see about are businesses that aren't really real, entrepreneurs that don't have a real business model, and fake quotes. Like, I know that this person doesn't talk this way at all. Like, how do you combat that in this day and age? Because 90% of the times, if there's an article written in Forbes about, myself, most people would be like, oh, well, that's a paid for article because I'm getting 20 messages a day from 15 different kids saying that if you pay me X amount of dollars, I'll end up in Forbes.
Yep.
So how do you really do PR the right way?
So, okay, that's a good question. And I want to answer a different question really quick before I answer that one. So you're right. People that are in the industry, you, me, everybody that we pretty much know, they can tell the difference, right? They can tell the difference between like a fake article or something that was paid for and all that type of stuff. But there's so many people, so many clients that do not know the difference, and that's really what matters. Like both of them really matter. The reason why the first one really matters is because the people that I feel like know the difference, if you can get real press, they value that so much more, right? But there's so many people that don't know the difference at all. They don't even know the difference if you get on a small publication, right? All they see is like, wow, this guy's famous, right? And that's that perception that you get off. Now, obviously, if you get on a Forbes article, then they're still like, holy crap, like this guy's on Forbes. Now, to us, it's like, oh, Forbes article, like we can get that booked like, next week or whatever. So it's not as big. But the way you do press the right way is we learned how to do press the right way, like officially, like with like shortcuts and all that, the way we did it when we did it for a person without any press and for a person that didn't have any social media or any website or anything like that. So in a way, we almost created, and I've talked about this before, but we've created like a fake persona of who this guy was or who he sold me on, because he had sold me on an idea of like who this person was, right? And we got him on every single publication possible, like Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, like Huffington Post, like a ton of articles and stuff saying this guy sold his business for like $100 million. And we had to think of creative ways on how to get this guy published without them asking for like any sort of like paperwork, like what's the business that you sold, where's the money, like all that type of stuff, right? So we had sold this like fake persona, fake idea, and the way we did it was basically by eliminating all barriers that people would have, all questions that people would have, like any objections they would have beforehand. And once we learned how to do that, then we know, like, okay, if we can do that for somebody that doesn't have like anything.
Now did you know that the person actually didn't have anything?
No idea.
So this guy actually tricked you. So you weren't actually doing it on purpose.
No, I did not do it on purpose. But now that I like the way I'm helping my clients is very, very much on purpose, but I had to learn by accident.
Yeah.
So and I was very naive. He told me he was gonna like buy my business for like $3 million. So I didn't ask him any questions, right?
Yeah.
I was like, all right,
$3 million is a lot of money.
I was like, I'm signing the contract. I'm like, all right, I'm doing your press. But that's it, So we found out like the guy was a fraud, and didn't get paid. But I got a picture of like a signed check for $3 million, but that doesn't really help.
Yeah.
But yeah, after we learned that, we learned like a lot of shortcuts and a lot of like just handling objections. Because like even salespeople, they don't even write down the objections that they get and the perfect rebuttal for them. They just kind of answer it on the go. But I learned this from Ryan Stewman, which is another mentor of mine. Like you have to write down what people are gonna say beforehand and come up with the perfect rebuttal for that. That way they're left like speechless. Like you handle that. So the same way we handled that was the same way we did that for PR. So I can give you an example of how we did it for us.
Sure.
So one of the ways that one of our objections we would get is like, why would we hire you? You're a 21-year-old kid. You're a 20-year-old kid. Why would we hire you? Over bigger agencies. So we got an article on ourselves that says why $1 million PR companies are going to this 20-year-old for advice. So and then in that we showed proof of like $1 million company asking us to buy them out, and then also asking them asking us for advice on how to get these their clients featured. So instead of like every time we got hit with that objection, boom, we sent them that article, right? And then that handled that objection in a very prestigious way. We didn't have to say it, right? That article spoke for us. So like that's kind of like a strategic media placement instead of just like, oh, I want an article on Forbes. So.
Proactively answering the issue that's going to come up ahead.
Yep.
And that's also an awareness play.
Yep.
Okay.
So.
Now, the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is a lot of people think that once they get the article, it's game over. Business has changed. And from my understanding and what I've seen, like, as a writer for Yahoo, and I've had articles on the front page of the Yahoo Business, Small Business Advisor, when I interviewed people like Ryan Blair. And that was really, really amazing. And that one got hundreds and thousands of views, if not millions. But 90% of these articles aren't indexed for a lot of these people because they're contributor posts.
Yep.
How do people really effectively leverage that media? Because you can't really search for a lot of it.
No.
So what are some tips and tricks for somebody that has some press, but they're not really fully utilizing it?
So if you have some press, and if it's not indexed, then find smaller blogs. Like if you search up your name and your name is easily, there's like really not too many people that have your same name.
Like your name or my name?
Yeah. My name's very easy to get, to be ranked.
For John Smith, it's not so easy.
No, for John Smith, it's like good luck, But if you have a name where you can get it ranked, go on smaller blogs, and then just hit them up and say like, hey, I've been writing here, I've been written about here, and just get smaller articles there. Like you can get a good 10 in a month if you proactively go for those, and then those will rank because there's really nothing else ranking for your name except for like a Twitter or like pictures of somebody else. So that's what you want to control. And when you do that, you can actually control what's being said. In a Forbes article, you can't control what's being said. That's completely up to the Forbes writers and like the editors and all that type of stuff, right? So you would want, your name to be in the title and all that, but you can't control that. So one of the best ways to like cover up the first page is get on smaller blogs, and you'll get a ton of small press about that. And then you can leverage that to get some bigger pieces. And then the bigger pieces you can leverage to get on shows like this. But so the leveraging aspect, you're right, because the major press comes what you do with it. You won't just get a Forbes article and then become rich. Like, that's just not how it works. But if you leverage it to get on more shows, to get on TV, to get, to do JVs, to partner up with big influencers, to do all that type of stuff. Like, for example, we're doing an entrepreneur video with influencers because we want to meet with these influencers, right? Like, that's our in. That's our in to get to shake hands with those same influencers. So, and they're getting an entrepreneur video. So, like, that's how you leverage it. Because we could have just done an entrepreneur video for our clients and all that type of stuff, but we're going out of our way to do different things because we know it's going to benefit us.
Very cool. Now, do you think with like the advent of like new media, so podcasts, for example, what we're doing right now, this is a way a lot of people are learning. It's an educational tool because for someone that doesn't know about publicity, they learn from you. But publicity, I've had a lot of people in real estate, a lot of actors, a lot of models. How do you think that kind of fits in, like digital media now? Do you think that competes with like traditional press and like written outlets just due to how like people in our generation consume media?
For sure. We've transitioned more to like new media in general. Because you remember our thing. Our thing, like the reason we were successful is because all we did was publications. But, the trends die down. So like we still incorporate the traditional like media, like publications and all that. But in order, like we grab those as like pillar pieces to use this for TV, for podcasts, to become, contributors at publications, to do a lot more stuff than just like one aspect of PR. Because one aspect of PR won't get you much. PR is not just, publications. It's exposure in general. So yeah.
Now, we've talked a lot about a lot of the successes that you guys have been able to have. Now, one of the things that I love to cover with each of my guests is a lot of people picture this painting of entrepreneurship as it's amazing, it's nice cars, it's first class flights, but a lot of times it's a lot of people in one room.
Yeah.
It's everything was working great last month, but something changed. The outlets aren't looking for media.
Right.
We're not getting the right clients. How do you overcome these failures? Because entrepreneurship is an extremely rough lifestyle, especially as somebody that's as young as you are. It's not just being good at being a publicist. You have to get really good at handling your accounting, handling your finances, figuring out how you pay each member of your team because they're putting in a lot of their time and their blood, sweat, and tears as equity into what you guys are building. So what was something that was really difficult for you to learn? Like once you started running a business, it was generating revenue, you servicing your clients. But on the logistical side.
My taxes. So the accounting, the bookkeeping, the taxes part, that part kicked me in the ass. Like now I'm doing like monthly payments, just because I didn't do that. And I'm still like having trouble with payroll. So I haven't even hired somebody for that yet. I used to do bookkeeping and I used to hire somebody for accounting, but then, they just don't work for me anymore. So like that part of like the business I struggle with, like analytics wise and all that type of stuff I struggle with. I'm more of like I'm gonna hustle, I'm the face of it, like all that type of stuff, like more of the vision. And I hire out for like stuff that I'm just not good at all. But as far as it comes through like the hard times in business, one of my superpowers I feel is just being aware. Like I understand, like for example, today when things didn't go as planned, we could have easily been like, oh crap, the day sucks. Like we didn't get a meet up with the influencers. Like we're stuck here at the airport all day. But instead, what I did is I stayed at the airport and we worked and I got a lot of things finished, things that I would have had to do later on tonight. So and things constantly happen, but just being aware that they're gonna happen means it's just like a part of life now. Like it's not really, nothing is ever really too complicated. It really isn't. We just kind of make it to be a lot more than what it is, So I feel like that's one of my superpowers.
Yeah, because you're extremely like creative. Like I remember like you're doing those like covers and the images of all like the people on your team.
Yeah.
But it's really identifying what you can be a rock star at and what you can exponentially improve at. Because things that you're naturally more likely to be better at, you're more likely to be good at.
Yeah.
So if you have one of the videographers that you have, some of them might be great sales guys, but if you're telling them, hey, you're a videographer, you're a sales guy, and you're also going to be a writer, that's too many things a lot of times.
Yeah.
So how do you identify what each member of your team's like skill set is going to be?
That's also a very hard thing to do. Like I like for example, like Mikey and Truman, the people that are behind the camera, I just know like I'm gonna hire them for video because that's what they do, like video and photography. So I'm not gonna tell them anything else. They don't have to like write an article, nothing. But as far as like Sammy or somebody that like other people that I don't really know yet, I know Sammy is very social, so that gave me the in to be like, okay, I'm gonna put you in with my clients. He makes friends everywhere, right? Like we were at the mall like 2 days ago, and then it was me, Josue, and then Sammy, and then me and Josue were standing in line like to purchase, and Sammy, like while we were in line, was talking to like one employee, talking to the other employee. He was like going around just like talking to people. Like if he's very social, that means like, okay, I can put him in with the client management because people like him, and they've always liked him. So it's not necessarily his superpower is like being liked, I guess, which helps me with client customer service and stuff like that. So I guess I have to like identify, that in those aspects. But when I hired the sales team, I had a meeting at a hotel, and like, I don't know how many people went. There was like 3, 6, 9, like about 18 people that went. So 18 people that went, and I just like interviewed them, and it was like a 4-hour process. And then that's how I found my salespeople. So just kind of like that way, I'm hiring for specific roles and tasks.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, you've worked with a lot of amazing clients. How was it? Like, what was one superstar client that you wanted to lock in, and how did you go about doing that?
Superstar client that I wanted to lock in, it was probably our latest client, which is Bedros. Okay. So I'm grateful that we locked in Ed Milet, but at the time I didn't know how big Ed Milet was. I didn't even know who he was when we locked him in. Like my sales guy told me that he was having Ed Milet on the phone, and that he's pretty big, and I was like, yeah, but a lot of people say that they're big, like just like, listen, we can do work for him and stuff like that. And because I didn't know him, which I thought I knew like a lot of people, I was like, yeah, like he's big, but I don't know who he is. Until I actually started working with him, I was like, wow, this guy's really, really big. Like, thank God, and I'm grateful and all that type of stuff. And we actually did a lot of work for him. So Bedros, I knew exactly who he was. One of our superstar sales guys closed him. His name's Sergio. And so I was really, really happy that we got Bedros on, because he's just like a powerful person. Like at a young age, his mom told him to like pour gasoline on his hair to like get rid of like the lice and stuff. Like he lived a very tough life, and he's very much leader like. He's not a dictator, right? He mans up to situations, which I like. He leads people with love, and just all that type of stuff. So when we locked him in, I was like, oh, like hell yeah, like I want to personally do his press, and like that's it. So like nobody else does his press except me.
Okay, so you're exclusive on that one.
Yeah.
That's really cool, dude. Now, where do you see the future of PR going in like the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a good question. I don't know, but I do know. I do know that it's going to be a lot more video, which is why I'm investing in a lot more video. Like in-person podcasts like this and all that type of stuff. So, but I don't know exactly like how it's gonna go, because I thought we were gonna do publications for the rest of my life. But it just doesn't work out like that. So that's a good question. I don't know how to answer that.
Well, I mean, I think I definitely agree with you about the video segment of it, because how many people really read nowadays?
Yeah, very few people. Like, you can get an article on Forbes, and like maybe your mom or your dad will read it, but like
it's a little bit better to get a video on Forbes now, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
Stuff like that is how people consume media, and I think that's a mistake that a lot of people do in PR and even media placement is. People want people to behave in the way that's most beneficial for them.
Yep.
But oftentimes, clients care about you doing things their way.
Yes.
It's like McDonald's, made your way. You want the onions off? We'll take the onions off for you.
Yeah.
So I think being aware of that, most people aren't going to necessarily read, but if you have video content, it's a lot easier to buy ads on Instagram or Facebook to drive to that video content.
Yeah.
On Forbes or on Entrepreneur or wherever the outlet is.
Yep.
So I think that's a very good idea that you have.
And we've been doing that more, like especially with Entrepreneur. We realize again, it's unsaturated. Like they have a video network, but we're kind of utilizing like Entrepreneur in a way where like, okay, we're gonna get to all the influencers first. We're gonna get to the big names first. We're gonna get to the women entrepreneurs first. Like, and then creating video content so that way if anybody else does it, they already know like, oh, like Ulyses started it first or whatever. Like we're not trying to start a trend, but we're trying to like
be an originator.
Yeah, be an originator first. So like, yeah, exactly. So we're realizing like there's other stuff available, and we gotta hit that.
Okay, very cool. Now, one of the things that I know you worked with Bentley, and Bentley is a big advocate of person-based brands, because in today's day and age, I might not necessarily trust the large corporation, but I trust the CEO.
Yeah.
I trust that person's vision. So a lot of people loved Apple for a long time because they loved Steve Jobs' vision.
You're right.
How important do you think that is for people that are running companies today to be associated with their brand?
So it's like a double-edged sword. I've heard that if you associate your face and your name with a brand, that when it's time to sell, like you can't really sell because that, like the main asset is like you, right? Unless you start working for that company. So a lot of people want to remove themselves from that. But if you do attach your name to the company, to the brand, it's actually a lot easier to make money. Because again, people want to buy from people they trust, right? I trust you. I've known you for 3 years.
Yeah, or 3 or 4 years
yeah,
now. Yeah.
Actually, 3-4 years. So I'm going to go to you. Like I said, I told you, before this podcast, I know another guy that does like that is very similar. But I was like, but I know you though.
Yeah.
Like, so because of that, I'm just comfortable, and I know like you're going to get the job done and all that type of stuff, that I'm going to go with Ashwin. So that's how people are, right? If like these guys are my friends, like the people that work with me, they're my friends. I know them. And because I know them, I'd much rather hire them than over somebody I don't know, right? And Mikey and Truman, I knew them not personally, but because of their like video content and their work. So I fell in love with like who they are as a creative. And then when I went to go meet them, obviously they're like really cool and stuff like that. And they just kind of fit, right? We're all kind of young. But yeah, it's very, very important, especially if you want to like close sales and just get to bond with like the other person.
That's very cool, dude. No, I really think that's a very good point that you brought up. There's the double-edged sword of that, because like, I mean, a great example of that, not with an owner, but even in advertising, is the Verizon guy became the Sprint guy.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Like, you spent a lot of money making this guy synonymous with your brand, but when the contract fell through, went with a different company.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Now, how do you balance having a personal life with running this team, constantly scaling, and then the constant pivots in the public relations space?
I suck at that still. I was supposed to go meet my mom and my dad and my grandma before I came here. My grandma was leaving to Mexico. She actually left today. But I saw her at the airport, and I saw my dad. So I got lectured a little bit that I didn't go meet them, ahead of time. But I just suck with that in general. Like, I need to find a better way to like balance that out, but it's very, very tough. Like, I'll call them and I'll text them here and there, but it's not the same as like in person. And I know today was very special because my grandma's leaving to Mexico, and I'm not sure if she's gonna come back or something. And I can always travel over there, but I also wanted to see my parents beforehand, and they just feel like their son's living like his life, and they're like, what are they now? Like, they love their son, and I'm not giving them that option to like love me in a way, because I'm not allowing them to like I'm not allowing them to love their son because I'm not physically there. I'm not giving them the opportunity. I won't like answer phone calls and stuff like that. So it's very tough.
And I think that's also something a lot of people don't get about the unglamorous side of entrepreneurship. They see you in LA with all of your friends having nice dinners or meeting with these cool clients.
Yeah.
But they don't see the missed calls, the missed emails, and the sacrifice that you have to make as a person to be able to do what it is that you do. To truly excel, you only have 24 hours in a day, and you have to prioritize.
Yeah.
So I know another issue that like you've kind of been great at changing is like for the past couple months you've been getting in shape.
Yes.
How did that kind of like come together? How did you put that as like a priority?
My best friend and like partner, Josue, first got into it. So we were both really, really skinny. Like I was skinny with a big head and I had blonde hair. Like I did not look good. I thought I looked good, but I didn't.
Latino Marshall Mathers?
Yeah, like, exactly, dude. And my favorite artist is Eminem. But anyways, yeah, aside from that, so like he started getting fit really, really quickly. And he hired this trainer. And I was like, dude, like you're looking good. And I was like, I want that, and then just once you start working out like on yourself, your confidence level just goes up. You just feel a lot better about yourself. I haven't worked out for like the past 2 weeks, but when I was working out, like I worked out consistently for like on and off for a good like 3-4 months. But I feel a lot better about myself. I filled up. I can take off my shirt. Like I'm just not embarrassed of like who Ulyses is. So I made that a priority because I put it in my schedule. Like we worked out at 9 a.m. in the morning and then 9 a.m. at night. Now the thing I sucked at was eating because I didn't have somebody there to be like, hey, you need to eat right now. This is what we're gonna make and all that type of stuff. So, but the trainer, he was there with me when I was working out. So he would like, hey, what are you doing? Like you got to do this. So, and I'm very competitive too. So like when I was there, I saw Josue getting bigger than me very quickly. So when he would not be there, I'd be like, oh, I got to push it harder. So yeah.
Now, do you think it's a thing, like one of the biggest objections that people get as a coach or even as a publicist is, well, I'm not really sure I could probably do some of this stuff on my own. And obviously most things people can learn to do on their own, but do you think there's a lot of value in being held accountable? Because if you, for example, had a chef or someone that was a nutritionist that you were spending money on, you're going to eat the right way because you're already spending the money on it, right? Do you think that plays into a big role of why people need a publicist versus just trying to get press on their own?
Yeah, you're 100% right. Like the reason, because I could have worked out by myself, but I would have not had the same determination. I would have not had the same, like I wouldn't have gone, most likely. Like the only reason I was there is because I was paying him and because he made sure. Like when I didn't go, he would show up to my house. So like he would drive to my house and be like, hey, like how come you're not, why are you ignoring my messages and why are you not going to the gym? So like I love that about him, right? Because another trainer could have just like, oh, it's all right, like he's just gonna pay me anyways. But this guy would go out of his way to make sure like, hey, this is the stuff you need to buy. This is the supplements you need to take. You need to work out at this time. This is what we're gonna work on today. So like a large part of it is being held accountable. A lot of people pay coaches just to hold them accountable, like just for that simple fact, right? Because they know like, hey, you need to get on it, and then they do. But if nobody's doing that to them, then just like it's very hard to be self-motivated.
Especially when you're your own boss.
Especially when you're on your boss, yeah.
Because you need somebody that doesn't have like a fear of reprisal. Because if someone's working for you, it's a lot harder for them to tell you, hey, Ulyses, you can't go on a date right now. It's 3 p.m. and we have way too much business to handle.
Yep.
You need somebody that's external that's like, hey, you're messing up, man. You got to be like the leader for your team if that stuff pops off.
Yeah.
Now, if there's somebody that's listening right now that's thinking, hey, I think it might be the right time for me to get press, what are the things that they need to get together, and in what order should they be trying to focus at it?
So that's a good question. So any time is like the right time. So if you're just starting out, I mean, obviously if you're just starting out, it's not the right time. But I mean, like if you have a business running and you feel like, oh, I need more accolades or whatever, like you need to first determine like what accolades do you need in order to get PR? Because I'm pretty sure if you have a business and you're making money, you have accolades. Right? You're running a successful business. It's working. You can talk about, even if it's not working, you can talk about the hardships about entrepreneurship, and then you reach those people. But if you're a big CEO, right, and you have no personal brand whatsoever, but you have a big company and you're doing great, like that is the perfect time to come out, because it's kind of like an Ed Milet effect. Like Ed Milet, when he first came out, he came out with Grant Cardone. He came out with like the top players in that space. So he came out at the top. He didn't start from the bottom and work his way up. So if you're like a big CEO and all that type of stuff and you have a big company, then you can start off at the top because you have all those accolades to back you up. Now, if you're a smaller entrepreneur and you want to get to that top, then the first thing you would do is like get smaller pieces on yourself so you can solidify who you are, solidify exactly what you want to be known for, and then rise up to the top. But it's a lot easier when you have those publications than if you just want to like, work your way up as in like getting more accolades. Because when I was, I don't know how old I was at the time, like 18, 19, when I was, becoming a writer to these publications, doors opened up for me. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to do anything else. I didn't have to do anything extra, things that didn't move the needle. So the same thing and the same concept applies to everybody else that starts that, right? People love that, like, oh, you're in the media, like this guy's famous. They just have that perception.
No, for sure. Now, after like getting that thing, like, is there a way that they can go about identifying what their story is, or are there other assets that they need to build out? Like, do they need their social handles secured? Do they need to write anything?
They do need, for sure, they need their story in place. Like they need to know, and it's not necessarily a story. They just need to know who they need to be or who they want to be. Once you know that, then every article you write, every podcast you get on, every if you get featured, will be towards that. But if you don't know that, if you don't know who you are, then then obviously like you just don't know where to go, right? You're just like, I have no idea what to do, because obviously you don't know what it is you want to be featured for. But if you want to be featured for Facebook ads or Facebook ads for like small businesses, or Facebook ads for brick and mortar businesses, or something specific, then it's very easy to come up with a game plan after that. That's why whenever we send an intake form, which I'm pretty sure you've seen before, the very first question is, if Forbes came to you tomorrow, how would you want to be perceived as? Because once we know that, everything in the game plan aligns with whatever it is that you want to be perceived as.
No, that's awesome, man. That's wicked cool. Now, if somebody wanted to do what you do, to become a publicist, to play in like these big markets, what are the steps that they need to take to learn the business?
I'll tell you this, it's a lot harder now. We got in at a time where it was not easy, but it was easier to get people published, to get people full pieces and all that type of stuff. Now it's a lot harder because it's so saturated. Publications have gotten to the point where they like Huffington Post, they eliminated every single contributor from their platform that had access to that. So publications have made it a lot harder. So now that I'm more of like a public figure in that space, it's easier for us because I've already built up the relationships long beforehand, 4 years ago, right? But somebody that's getting started now, what you need to do is focus on like, okay, now what are like the shortcuts to getting these press pieces? What are the shortcuts to getting on these podcasts? And if you want to start in PR, focus on the new stuff. Don't focus on the old stuff that we did. So focus more on like the new media, like how you're talking about, the podcast, the TV, and all that type of stuff.
Very cool, man. Now, what are some tools that you guys use to keep your team organized? Because there's a lot of people, you got to handle interpersonal communications.
Yeah.
How do you like successfully set people up for success? Are there tools that you use to get a hold of media contacts, or people just searching for them randomly?
So Sammy and like the sales team and like mainly everybody has an SOP, their own SOP. So like a standard operating process, procedure, whatever it is. And we actually create that for them. So we do a lot of the guessing work for them. So that means like for salespeople, we write down the most like 20 objections that they're gonna get. Then they learn them and they repeat it, and they learn them and they repeat it. And then after that, they just get good at that, right? So every time they get an objection similar to that, they should know in their head, oh, this is similar to what we wrote in the SOP. I'll just tell them this. And then they know exactly what the package is. That way they can sell it. So they just have to know everything inside and out, but I have to provide that resource for them. The same thing applies with like Sammy. So like Sammy has an SOP for the clients. Now, every client is tailored, but just because it's tailored doesn't mean the same process doesn't apply. Like you still need articles, you still need podcasts, you still need collaborations, you still need to become a contributor, you still need all this type of stuff for like verification. So that SOP, following that process, all it is now is like, okay, if Ashwin is like a celebrity publicist, then what type of articles do we need to get him? Okay, cool, we have that. What type of podcast do we need to get him on? What does he need to be seen as? And then kind of like going down that list, right? So that way it's not so much like you're not thinking from scratch. You actually have a process in play and a proven process that works. But we only got that proven process because we've done it so many times.
Building out a real roadmap.
Yeah.
No, that's very cool. Now, are there any books that you recommend that people look into, like reading?
How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. I feel like the reason why I don't care about too much stuff like things that would get into people's heads is because I read that book. Before that, I had like massive anxiety. Like I'd be in school and my ears would get red. I'd start sweating and I'd leave the classroom because I just couldn't control myself. But things don't really matter too much. They really don't. They don't matter enough to like make your spirit feel not at peace. So I really, really recommend that book.
Oh, you should definitely read The Simple Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
I
you haven't.
I've
That's
heard it's good too.
Amazing book. So I think you'd really enjoy that.
I'm down to read it.
No, definitely check that out on the flight back. So what are some projects that you're excited about right now that you're working on? And then where can people connect with you?
So people can connect with me on Instagram at Ulyses, or my personal website, ulyssesosuna.com. And one of the projects that we're working on now is we're checking out a house either tomorrow or like while we're here. We're probably going to live with somebody and do their press for them, but it's a huge house. Like the rent is like $25,000 just to like be there and stuff. And what that's going to allow us to do is like we're going to be here in LA making these moves and making these like power moves together. And to me, I'm super excited about that because every time we come to LA, we usually do something that really helps out the business. Like last time we came, we now have studio access to like in Good Morning La La Land. Like we hit them up, like we can use their studio and all that type of stuff. So I'm just looking to see what we can actually do here in a month, 2 months, 3 months, instead of just like being at home and kind of like working with people virtually. So
just getting in the game in a big way.
Yeah.
The largest competitive market that there is.
And in LA, so I'm excited.
That should be awesome, man. I'm looking forward to having you out here.
Thanks, Ed. We can hang out a lot more now.
Yeah, I think that'll be really fun. So I want to thank all of you guys for tuning into another episode of the New Hollywood Podcast. We're going to bring some more amazing guests for you guys to tune into. We're going to be everywhere from Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, and CastBox. So be sure to tune in, Tell your friends about it, and hopefully there's some amazing lessons that each of you can apply towards either your own PR or building out your own brand the right way. Thanks for tuning in.